Good morning. Let's please rise and sing number 159, Hymn in the Gray Hymnal. This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and wide. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and pine. But other lands have sunlight too and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, the God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine. Fellowship. Oh, now I get a little sound. Welcome once again. I am the Reverend Alison Wilbur Eskildsen, and I am your summer minister, at least for just a couple more weeks, when Reverend Daniel will return. But it has been my pleasure to get to know many of you over these last few weeks. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, whatever your race or gender identity, whomever you love, and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, we welcome you. If you're visiting with us for the first or second time, I invite you to rise in body or in spirit, and so that we can give you an ERUUF, as we say, welcome. So is there anyone here who's new, would like to be welcomed with a little applause? And if you're visiting us online this morning, I hope you'll identify yourself in the chat box and say hello to your fellow online worshipers. Whatever your frequency of attendance, you are welcomed. A few brief announcements this morning. If you have children and youth with you, they are invited to join the religious exploration activities after the Time for All Ages when we sing the children out, and parents are certainly welcome to join the kids in their activities. If you need a hearing assist device, they are at the back, and a greeter will help you to get one. And after the service, you're invited to join us for coffee and conversation in the fellowship hall across from the courtyard. Before we proceed any further, let me remind you to turn off any cell phones or other noisemakers you might have brought with you so that they don't disturb our service. And now let us take a moment to center ourselves, to bring ourselves fully into this place and this time. Thank you, Sally and Kate. Our opening words are by the Unitarian Universalist minister Kenneth L. Patton, titled, "This House." This house is for the ingathering of nature and human nature.
It is a house of friendships, a haven in trouble, an open room for the encouragement of our struggle.
It is a house of freedom, guarding the dignity and worth of every person.
It offers a platform for the free voice, for declaring, in both time of security and danger, the full and undivided conflict of opinion.
It is a house of truth-seeking, where scientists can encourage devotion to their quest, where mystics can abide in a community of searchers.
It is a house of art, adorning its celebrations with melodies and handiworks.
It is a house of prophecy, outrunning times past and times present in visions of growth and progress.
This house is a cradle for our dreams, the workshop of our common endeavor.
While Michael lights our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, I share these words by W.E.B. Du Bois. Now is the accepted time, not tomorrow, not some more convenient season. It is today that our best work can be done, and not some future day or future year. It is today that we fit ourselves for the greater usefulness of tomorrow. The words to our next hymn are by Ralph Waldo Emerson, a Unitarian minister, transcendentalist, abolitionist, and much, much more. His words lift up the various beauties of America. Let us rise in body or in spirit to sing of Golden Mornings. It's number 44 in the gray hymnal, or the lyrics are on the screen.
We sing of golden mornings, we sing of sparkling seas, of prairies, valleys, mountains, and stately forest trees. We sing of flashing sunshine and life-bestowing rain, of birds among the branches, and springtime come again. We sing the heart courageous, the youthful eager mind. We sing of hopes undaunted, of friendly ways and kind. We sing the roses waiting beneath the deep piled snows. We sing the earth's great splendor, whose beauty round us glows. Please turn and greet your neighbor.
I'd like to invite any of the children who are here with us to come on down, or if there are any adults who are young of heart who would like to come down, you're welcome to come down for a time when I'll share some thought about Independence Day, which we'll be celebrating, or at least observing, this week. And if you want to sit over here a little bit more than usual, we'll be looking up at some of the images on the screen. And I will sit down. All right, I want you all, not only the children, but the adults, how many of you celebrate your birthdays? I hope everyone celebrates their birthdays in some fashion. Well, you know, the country, the United States of America, it celebrates a birthday too. And that birthday is what? Do you know what that is? Anybody? Anybody? What's our birthday? The 4th of July, Independence Day. And that will occur in just 2 days. Are any of you going to be doing anything special on Independence Day? Yes. You're going to have a pool party. That sounds fun. What about you?
We're celebrating my mom and 4th of July's birthday at their house.
Oh, your mom is having her 4th of July birthday at their house. Well, I know someone else who's got a 4th of July birthday. My husband, who's here. What about any of you out here? Are you going to do anything special? No? Yes. Celebrating a birthday. That's great. That's great. You're going to go to the Frederick Douglass community reading. That's wonderful, wonderful. I'm going to refer to that a little bit today. Well, many of us on July 4th, on Independence Day, go to parades, go to the fireworks in the evening, maybe have picnics or barbecues. So that's what a lot of people will be doing on that day. You know, the reason that we celebrate the birth of our nation is because on July 4th, 1776, the founders of this nation declared that we were going to be independent. We were no longer going to be connected to the government in Britain, which was way over across the Atlantic Ocean, far away. And the people in the colonies here didn't like the way the government was treating them, and so they thought it would be better if we severed ties. And we call those people who decided to declare independence our founders. And we have an image of some of the founders, and the papers on that desk are the declaration that they're agreeing to sign at great peril to themselves, because declaring that they were no longer going to obey the laws was not a good thing. It could result in their death. What it did result, because the king didn't like our declaring independence, we fought a war. And this is a picture of George Washington, who was in charge of the American Revolution, crossing the Delaware River with some of his soldiers. At least that was one artist's idea of what that might have looked like. Yes?
I have a book about that.
You have a book about that. That's great. Well, then you know a lot of good details about the American Revolution.
I haven't read it.
Well, maybe you'll read it this 4th of July. Because we won this war against the British, we now celebrate on July 4th. And one of the things that they decided to do, the founders decided how they were going to run their government. And so they wrote down rules in what became the U.S. Constitution. And it begins with, "We the people," which was very different from the way the monarchy, the king, was running things in Britain. And the way that we exercise our rights as citizens is by voting. Have any of you ever voted on something? Yeah? I hope all hands get raised up here in the pews. Yes, good. Well, I'm going to give you a chance to exercise your opinions, to vote on something. So if we pretend that I'm going to have a party for Independence Day, and I'm going to serve ice cream, but I don't know what kind of ice cream to serve, so I need you to help me decide. Now, there's our voting, and here's what we're going to decide on. We're going to decide on chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry ice cream to serve at the party. So first I'm going to ask you, raise your hands, all of you, raise your hands if you would prefer to have chocolate ice cream. All right, look around. We have a lot of hands. Okay, put your hands down. Now, who thinks we should have vanilla ice cream? Ooh, almost a lot of hands there too. All right, how about strawberry? Not too many strawberries. Well, it's a tough call, but I think chocolate won the day. So that is how we vote and how the majority rules. Now, if it was a tie, or if we couldn't make up our mind, what might we do? If we can go to the next slide, what might we do to get more votes the way we want? What if we needed more votes for chocolate? We might protest or march as these people are protesting and showing that they side with love in making decisions. And you notice that there are children marching, not just adults. We can all try to sway people's opinions so that they will vote the way we want them to vote. So if you have an opportunity to vote and you're concerned whether people will vote the way you want, you can advocate for the things that you want. So that is what we celebrate on Independence Day, our voting and our right to be we the people, to make decisions. And I hope that you will participate as a citizen when you grow up or when you go out into the world. And not only that, you're also exercising your Unitarian Universalist values, because we value all of the values that America stands for: peace, equality, freedom, liberty, and whatnot. And those are many of our values as well. So thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy your Independence Day, and let's sing our children out to their activities. Please join me for a moment in the spirit of prayer or meditation. Spirit of life and great mystery, known to us by many names, we give thanks for all the joys in our lives. May we celebrate them together. For all the sorrows held by this community, may we hold them tenderly, with love and care. Let us hold Sue and Gary Pohl in our prayers. Sue had a bad fall recently and is experiencing some pain. And Gary's sister in Florida had heart surgery and suffered a stroke during that surgery. Let us also hold our religious exploration coordinator, Melissa Smith, and her father, Mark Gibbs, with love. Mr. Gibbs had an unexpected cardiac bypass surgery this past week. He is recovering well, excuse me, but Melissa is with him to give him some extra care. In these anxious times, we pray for greater peace and release from all that afflicts us in this fellowship and in the larger world. But let us not lose sight of the wonder, happiness, and meaningful relationships available to us. For it is these that give us the strength and courage needed to face suffering and other challenges. Let us take a moment in silence to pause for the private hopes and prayers we hold in our hearts. May all people experience love, peace, and joy. And may these prayers prompt us to work towards easing all burdens. Amen.
The start of the long 4th of July holiday weekend is a good time to reflect on what Independence Day means to me. First, I'm not what you would call a patriotic person. However, that doesn't mean that the 4th does not have a place in my life. I grew up in a small town in Maine during the Eisenhower era, a time of seeming post-war unity and prosperity. On the 4th, my mother would drive me to the other side of town, where on a hillside field we could look across the Androscoggin River to the fairgrounds beyond, where the fireworks display would be launched. Dozens of families would converge here after dinner. Kids would run around with sparklers as adults sat on blankets waiting for to get dark enough. As the dusk would settle in, the fireflies would emerge like a trailer for the entertainment to follow. In that era, patriotism, like systemic racism, was just part of the air that we breathed. It wasn't until I got to college that I began to think about my relationship with the country that I lived in. When I arrived on campus in the fall of 1969, Cornell was still processing the ripples from an armed takeover of their student union by protesting black students. It was the Vietnam War era, and I became active in anti-war protests. I've never requested my FBI file, but I expect that it starts with a picture of me helping shut down a draft center in Syracuse. The spring of 1970 was turbulent. 4 students were shot at an anti-war protest on the Kent State campus. Then I was there as 100,000 of us marched on Washington to protest all the needless deaths. I was home early for that 4th of July as I joined thousands of college students going out on strike to protest the collusion of universities in the war effort. The leak of the Pentagon Papers the next year completely ended any sense that I might have that Americans should be blindly patriotic to a country led by deceitful warmongers. This is basically how things have stood for the past 50 years. If so, you might be wondering about the tie that I'm wearing. Those of you who heard my Father's Day reflection last year might recognize it as one of the holiday-themed ties gifted me by my children. So of course, I had to take them to see the fireworks on the 4th of July. Most years we would drive up to Maine for the long holiday weekend. One particular 4th of July does stand out. My mother was in her 90s, and for decades she had been unable to join us at the fireworks. That year, I rented a hotel room with a balcony overlooking the Androscoggin River, so my mother, now in a wheelchair, could see those fireworks one last time. As for me, I was reconnected to those long ago summer nights when my mother watched me run around chasing fireflies with a sparkler. My wife Lenore and I recently saw the musical 1776, which encapsulates the drama leading up to the first 4th of July. The dialogue paints a vivid picture of tense negotiations that were eventually settled through compromise, the birth of American politics. This production was exceptional as the all-female cast, playing the white landowning founding fathers, whose pictures you saw earlier, spanned the spectrum of ethnicity and sexual identity. Hearing those founding fathers' dialogue stripped of their original context and placed into the mouths of powerful women made them all the more profound. It made me think, and I realized that in a way it fundamentally changed my relationship to the 4th, as I now see that it is not a ritualistic celebration of an event that happened 250 years ago. Rather, it is an opportunity to revisit, reimagine, and revitalize our relationships with those who share this country with us. The fireworks represent a symbolic fire, with the phoenix of a new nation arising each year, evolved and resolved to be stronger, more united, and more committed to healing. Thank you.
As you know, Independence Day occurs this week. Some of us may attend parades, the barbecues, the fireworks, and wear red, white, and blue, maybe even ties, all to show our patriotism, as Michael and I both did as children. But even as we observe the founding of America this week, We cannot escape the fact that we occupy land settled first by indigenous peoples. The Ino, Tuscarora, Tutelo, the Occaneechi Band of the Saponi Nation, and others lived in this area long before European immigrants and enslaved Africans arrived. Descendants of those natives who survived disease, war, and colonial expansion continue to live here. The European founders of this American nation promised liberty, equality, and the pursuit of happiness to every citizen. But independence and freedom were not promised to all. It took the persistence of people like Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, and Abraham Lincoln to free the enslaved. It took the persistence of civil rights icons like Martin Luther King Jr., Shirley Chisholm, and John Lewis to demand promised equality and voting rights. The work for equity continues in light of the Supreme Court's ruling this week that struck down affirmative action in college admissions. It took Native people like Red Cloud, Wilma Mankiller, Buffy St. Marie, and Hank Adams to demand treaty rights be honored. This fight continues in light of the Supreme Court's recent decision to deny water rights to the Navajo Nation. It took women like Abigail Adams, Susan B. Anthony, Ida B. Wells, and Betty Friedan to demand equal rights and opportunity for women. This fight, too, continues, as evidenced by increased restrictions on women's health needs. And now the Supreme Court decision this past week allows discrimination against members of the GLBTQI+ community. This fight for equal rights must continue, or we'll soon see water fountains labeled heterosexuals only, and door signs which read, "No gays served here." As idealistic as America's founders were, courts and legislators are limiting full participation in this democratic republic. Some leaders trade on fear, lies, and grievances for votes and power. Some guarantee rule by the minority through gerrymandered districts and voting restrictions. These actions go against everything I understood America to be. I do not understand people who promote these actions. I cannot celebrate this America. I believe the America I once idolized has lost its way. I feel lost in this America. The poet Langston Hughes wrote that America never was America for him. It is not my America either. Maybe you feel similarly disenfranchised, or maybe you disagree with my assessment of America. For now, you are free to voice disagreement. But as evidenced by the Don't Say Gay bills, that right could be taken away too. There was a time when I got goosebumps reading the Declaration of Independence, the US Constitution, and even the Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom. I was proud that we could claim the primary author of the Declaration and the statute, Thomas Jefferson, as a fellow Unitarian. I was in awe that America's founders could imagine a democratic republic where we, the people, govern ourselves. And I thought that our declaring all men are created equal was just an historic anomaly, that men meant everyone, including anyone not identifying as white male property owners. I remember crying tears of joy when Barack Obama was elected president. I was proud of America then. And when we elected the first female vice president, Kamala Harris, I was proud then, too. I was maybe not proud, but certainly relieved that a majority of Americans voted against election deniers in 2020. But even with these reasons to wave flags and light up fireworks, the partisanship, anger, and hate is killing my spirit. Perhaps yours as well. I want an America of expanded rights, equality, and freedom. I have to believe we can make a more perfect union as long as we never give up and never surrender to forces that would deny America's founding promises. The phrase, never give up, never surrender, may remind you of the 1999 movie Galaxy Quest. The film featured a group of has-been actors whose sci-fi TV show was canceled years earlier, but whose aging actors appear at conventions to relive their glory days. In Galaxy Quest, distant aliens don't understand the actors are acting, or the TV show pretend. So they come to Earth to hire the space crew to save them from an evil adversary bent on destroying their planet and their lives. The Galaxy Quest crew at first don't realize that the aliens are for real until they're whisked across the galaxy. On board the alien spaceship, the crew has a choice: help the aliens or admit they're actors who have faked their exploits. Despite not having a clue how to vanquish an alien foe, they decide to help. True to Hollywood convention, these ordinary people rise to the occasion. They don't give up, and they don't surrender. The aliens had placed their hopes and their trust in this crew, and in turn, the actors learn to trust themselves. They persist, and of course, they save the aliens from death and destruction. Hollywood stories give us role models, but so does history. To those names mentioned earlier, we can add the Reverend Theodore Parker, Elizabeth Blackwell, Rachel Carson, Harvey Milk, and Elijah Cummings, plus many other ordinary people who use sermons, poetry, public discourse, and peaceful protests to right wrongs and promote justice. These ordinary people ignored abuse and threats for a greater purpose. These ordinary people responded when extraordinary times called for it. The times call for it again. We too are ordinary people, and we can demand better from our nation. We can work for a more perfect union. We can defeat authoritarianism and other forces that deny freedom if we act. And our Unitarian Universalist principles and values show us the way forward and offer us hope. For those unfamiliar with our current 7 principles, they state that we covenant to affirm and promote 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. 2, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. 3, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. 4, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. 5, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. 6, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And 7, respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. An 8th principle adopted by some congregations affirms working towards spiritual wholeness through an accountable, multicultural, beloved community that actively works to dismantle racism and other oppressions. Do you hear the principle's common values? Individual worth, justice, freedom, democracy, peace, and wholeness. The principles move from the individual to the community, and by stating we are interdependent with all that exists, it means that whatever we do to promote our values, the impact will spread well beyond ourselves. These values are meaningless if we are not prompted to act on them. If we respect one another, we must engage with those who differ from us. Whatever your assessment of America, no one should feel so self-righteous that it's okay to dismiss anyone who disagrees. We need to understand what needs, grievances, and hopes support their conclusions. I have to believe that they want an America to be proud of, too. There must be common ground. If we can appeal to our shared American and Unitarian values, find that common ground, and touch each other's hearts, then we may create a new America we can be proud of. Now, if I sound too political, or you believe what's going on outside in the world should have no place here, please know I disagree. Politics and religion both focus on questions of how we will live together. And politics becomes religious when our basic religious values are threatened. Parker Palmer, the Quaker spiritual writer activist, writes in his book, Healing the Heart of Democracy, these words: "Politics is the ancient and honorable human endeavor of creating a community in which the weak as well as the strong can flourish. Love and power can collaborate, and justice and mercy can have their day. We, the people, must build a political life rooted in the commonwealth of compassion and creativity still found among us, becoming a civic community sufficiently united to know our own will and hold those who govern us accountable to it." Our political lives as Unitarian Universalists rests upon our values, which show us how to live together in peace with freedom and equality and justice for all. Amanda Gorman, in her 2020 inaugural poem, The Hill We Climb, said America was an unfinished nation. She invites us to make America a more perfect union. Gorman ends her poem with these words: "But one thing is certain, if we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. We will rise from the golden hills of the West. We will rise from the windswept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover. And every known nook of our nation and every corner called our country, our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light, if only we have enough to see it. If only we're brave enough to be it. May we be so brave. Amen.
We weave the fabric of beloved community as we draw our circle wider. We commit ourselves by offering what we can through our time, talent, and treasure. We freely give as we cultivate generosity in our hearts. Bound by our covenant, guided by our mission, and illuminated by our vision, we use these offerings to carry out our work in the world. As the greeters come forward to pass the plates, if you do not have a check or cash handy, we invite you to use the card in the pews by simply pointing your device's camera at the QR code or using your device's browser to go to ERUUF.org. Click the Give Now button and follow the instructions from there. If needed, you can receive help in the office directly after the service. Sally Franz and Kate Lewis will continue now with the offertory.
In addition to thanking our musicians, let us also thank you for your generosity, for the songs, the singing this morning, for the words, and for your presence. With gratitude. Please rise in body or in spirit and let us sing our closing hymn, number 121 in the gray hymnal or on the screen if you're familiar with the melody.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promise, and that can be. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land building up ancient cities, raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build the land, my people we seek. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
As we we have already extinguished our chalice, let me share the closing words by W.E.B. Du Bois. The prayer of our souls is a petition for persistence, not for the one good deed or single thought, but deed on deed and thought on thought, until day calling unto day shall make a life worth living. Go in peace and remember, never give up and never surrender.